Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. You're listening to PHLY Flyers. That's right, PHLY. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. With me today, just an incredible show we have planned, because not only am I joined by Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor, but we have Broad Street Hockey's own, the fly by herself, Kelly Hinkle, for the very first PHLY BSH crossover. Welcome, Kelly. How do you like the studio?
Thank you. First of all, it's super cool. Second of all, I don't know if people know this, but we haven't been in a studio together since like 2019. Yeah. So this is actually super fun because it's better when you're in the same room.
And we're on camera again. Aren't you excited about that?
No, I'm not acknowledging that part of it.
Charlie looks up at the screen to like see the comments and just
What
makes.
camera?
I never look at the camera unless like I'm like directly.
Just pretend
talking.
it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I did prepare because having watched some of these broadcasts already, I did note that the dress code seems to be a T-shirt that is your personality.
Yes.
So obviously I had to go Pearl Jam gritty.
Although that's
Sure.
kind of an own for me, considering the fact that I'm wearing a blank gray T-shirt. If that's my personality.
Charlie.
Kind of a burn there, Kelly. Not going to lie.
It's just your personality's underneath. You know, you can't judge the book by its cover.
Just today. You're
Okay.
gray. Yeah.
Kelly, we're going to get into all sorts of stuff. It was the first day of training camp. Some very interesting quotes, as always, from the one and only John Tortorella. Lots of stuff to get into. But first, I think a lot of people have been interested in like what the hell's going on. Steph not with us today, but breaking news, she will be with us at some point. Virtually, because she lives in Atlanta. But we will have, hopefully weekly, the entire crew together. Tell us what's going on over at Broad Street Hockey, though, since we last all got to talk.
Yeah, so Broad Street Hockey is now a part of something called the For Hockey Fans Network, which is essentially Steph Driver and a couple of other people from SB Nation kind of took the ashes of what was thrown aside by Vox and built back up a network of hockey sites. So that launched last week. I think it's going to be really cool. I think you guys will find a lot of value in it. So head over to forhockeyfans.com, take a look at what we're doing there. Nothing changes with Broad Street Hockey. We're still trucking along with our articles and whatnot. So, it's
a
good.
podcast coming?
We will have podcasts.
Eventually.
Of some kind. Eventually.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure we get it all out there.
Yeah, thank you.
So people listening like what's going on with you guys and Steph and Kelly. It's like nothing. Everything's
cool.
good.
We got it coming.
It's
got it coming.
We're two different. We expanded basically. Like Broad Street Hockey Radio was so good it could not be contained. It had to be broken up.
Yes.
We were like a monopoly that the government had to come in and break into two separate entities because that's how strong of a product we created.
Yes. I mean, we still have Flyperbole. We'll still be doing the pre-games. We have regrettably lost our post-game host.
What an asshole.
I know.
Yeah, right. Who likes him?
Worst. But yeah, we're gonna do some cool new stuff this year as well. But it'll be coming. Hopefully, when the season starts, we'll have some new podcasts for you guys.
Go to broadstreethockey.com. Sign up for the Andrew McDonald tier. Is it the Farabee tier now? Can we call it that? No, we like it.
That's just cruel.
I talked about
signed the same contract, but
I talked
come on.
about liking him yesterday. I'm going to throw a little shade today.
Yeah.
We like Joel Farabee.
Yeah, we do. We do like Joel Farabee.
Unclear if that's an overpay yet.
Well,
so far it has been. We'll see how it goes.
Maybe he grows into it. Maybe the salary cap goes up $10 million, and then it's not an overpay.
Maybe in like 5 years,
Yeah.
we're averaging out the performance
Yeah.
over the length of the contract. We're like, this is fine.
Okay. So I guess we have to get into, to kick things off. I mean, first day of training camp, you're down in Voorhees today.
I was.
Covering all the things that journalists cover while at the first day of training camp.
Watching the players try not to vomit.
If John Tortorella can't make these guys throw up on the first day, he's lost a step. I mean,
I didn't see anyone vomit today. Not saying it didn't
Really?
happen, but they did. If they did throw up, they did a much better job of hiding it. Last year, Mason Millman, he was.
Oh, that's wild.
He was releasing some bodily fluids. Let me put it that
that's
way.
outstanding. And we're going to get into the bag skate and stuff later. But the first thing I wanted to talk to you about in your time down there, you had some. You had several interesting tweets, but the one that I think caught everyone's eye was Tortorella talking about the rebuild.
Right.
And it was one of the all-time great, like
Tortorella
backhanded.
quotes. Oh, it was good.
Like just straight up basically said, yeah, the morons last year could have said it's not a rebuild, but it was. So this is year 2, you know? Like,
Yeah. It was wild to hear him because everybody knew what he meant. But Tortorella all of last year pretty much was saying that it was a rebuild without saying the word rebuild because... And we've all kind of theorized this, but Tortorella essentially said, and I want to get the quote in its entirety because I don't want to misquote him. I want to get the actual quote because it was perfect. And it was, let me read it out from my Twitter account. It was... Sorry, I'm losing.
I've disconnected
here. Oh yeah,
from
here
the
we
Wi-Fi,
go.
yeah?
There is always a next step. See, in my mind, we were rebuilding last year. I don't care what we said, what was allowed to be said, or whatever. In my mind, we were rebuilding. So that's
what was allowed to be said?
It's a little bit
Allowed
like
to be
tacit
said.
admission that there was an organizational mandate that no one is allowed to say the word rebuild until we approve you saying the word rebuild.
Because we
shucks.
said, like, we begged them to just acknowledge it and say the word, and we've had a lot of fun being like, well, they said the word. Apparently, that was a big deal to them, too, because they weren't allowed.
It was a big
The coach just said they weren't allowed to say it.
Pretty much.
Which is, I mean,
bonkers.
Talk about we know they lack awareness, but it's what your fans wanted.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't it's not this dirty word. Like, your fans are begging you to rebuild. Like, please realize what's happening here. And listen, I mean, they picked at 5 the year before. They just picked at 7, whether they were purposefully rebuilding or not, which was like our hope. Like, oh, even if they don't get it, they're stupid. So they're going to put together a team that's shit. And they did.
Which they did,
So the rebuild started whether they wanted to or not.
It was an accidental rebuild. As I said, the accidental tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because, and not only I think did the fans want the rebuild, I think most of them did, particularly of the online variety, people wanted a rebuild. But it's funny, the more I talk to people like old school Flyers people, alumni, people like that, like, yes, there was an inherent discomfort, particularly by the older set, of just this idea of tanking, definitely, but also the idea that the Flyers, we try to win every year. But I think that even the old guard, a lot of them at least, agreed that we need to start over, that something has gone wrong with the organization and we need a clean slate. We need to start over. We need to start fresh. And I think the fact that Keith Jones is the one that's presenting this, it makes it easier for those guys to swallow it because they believe that starting over doesn't mean that the past is going to be completely removed. It means we're starting over, but we can trust that Jonesy's still going to take care of us.
Like, no matter where the Flyers were, the glory days, 70s and 80s, but at least they always had a superstar, a draw. Like, they had Eric Lindros. They went out and signed Danny Briere. They have a young core of guys. You know, they go out and get a Jeremy Roenick, something like that. After G, it was done. We don't have a damn thing. We're lucky to call what we have second line. Our best players, we're lucky to call them second liners right now.
Yeah.
You didn't even have that thing. Like, oh, whose jersey you getting? I don't know, probably like a Clark throwback or something.
They were hoping for Couturier, and then he couldn't come back.
Yeah, they had Couturier, who's an excellent player. I wouldn't call him a superstar, but an excellent player. He needs back surgery. He's out 2 years. It's like, what do we do? What are we gonna do?
Yikes.
But at least, like, we joked like a lot last year. The only sane person in this organization is John Tortorella. He confirmed that today,
which makes me feel better because I have kind of been with this idea that now he's going to take more of an active role in the shaping of the team, not just the coaching of the team. That's been giving me a little bit of pause just because he does kind of have what seems like a bit of an old school attitude toward hockey. But him once again confirming that, yes, he knows what's happening in reality and he understands that we're digging our way out of it now, kind of makes me feel a little bit better about the fact that he is, now a voice in the room as far as general managing goes.
Yeah, and I think another quote, and we can honestly just jump right into this, which to me that was the funny quote of the
That-
day
yes, that's
because
the-
that just
that's
jumped
the-
out, and
that's the Torts special
I
there.
had to tweet it immediately because it was just wow, he actually said it. He
was
said the thing. But the most eye-opening quote that he gave us during the session, which was I think he talked to us for a good 15 minutes. It was a good
It
session.
seemed like there was a lot of
Yeah.
tweets coming out at the time.
But he basically straight up said with regards to Mark Stahl, we were talking about Mark Stahl, about the importance of having him in the room and the importance of bringing him in for the young kids. And he said he's going to be a mentor. He's going to be an offshoot of the coaching staff on the back end. But then he hits you with basically, I've already talked to Mark Stahl, and Mark Stahl is not going to play in every game, and he knows that. But when he doesn't play, he's going to have just as important of a role preparing the kids to get into games and play. And here's the thing. If Mark Stahl, who I was kind of penciling in as a member of the top four.
We called him the
Yeah.
third or fourth defenseman
Yeah.
yesterday.
If he isn't going to play in all 82 games, or at least they're not planning for him to play in all 82 games, they really might bring a lot of kid defensemen onto this roster for game one. It's possible.
Because we talked about yesterday, Kelly, we did a whole conversation on the
watched.
different roster battles. And we talked a lot about how it doesn't look like there's a ton opened on defense outside of the third pair.
Right.
But and we really like, okay, like one of Nick Seeler or Zamula probably going to play. They like Seeler. They've spent all this time on Zamula. He's not waiver exempt anymore. And then they have these kids they want to bring up too. So it's the Sean Walker spot. And like hopefully they realize Sean Walker's nothing and they just don't play him. If they're not going to play Mark Stahl every game, they might not play. Like Walker might not make the team.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is all very it's very encouraging.
Yes.
Like it's one thing to acknowledge the rebuild. It's another thing to then do it correctly. And this is just very, very encouraging to me that like, okay, yeah, we brought in Mark Stahl to be like a veteran mentor. He's another Torts guy, was with him a long time in New York. Like, okay. But that's what he's going to be, an assistant coach on the ice.
Yeah.
Like, if he
Which I
plays, he
kinda
plays.
love.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
This is exactly what you want these guys to be. They don't have to be Keith Yandel playing every goddamn night.
Well, part of the problem is, and this is completely understandable from a fan perspective, really from a person who analyzes the team perspective, everyone has in their memories Andrew McDonald being on the top pair while Travis Sanheim was struggling to get minutes. Brandon Manning playing in a ton of games while prospects are languishing down in the minors.
will never-
And
He's
you
a
think to
shutdown
yourself,
guy.
oh, here we go again. You know, Mark Stahl is going to be the McDonald and Sean Walker is going to be the Manning. And at least so far, and again, actions speak louder than words, but at least so far, it seems like they're speaking the language of, look, these veterans are here. We're glad we have them, but the primary focus is, you know, getting Igor Zamula games, getting Emil Andrae up as soon as he proves he's ready, getting Adam Ginning in games to see if he can be a viable third-pair defenseman in this league, getting Ronnie Attard up when he's ready. Like, that's the focus, and they're trying to make it clear, and again, as I said, actions speak louder than words, but they're trying to make it clear that they're not just going to start Sean Walker because he's a vet.
It's truly... It seems like the most simple concept in the world.
But it wasn't for so long.
But they've screwed this up for about a decade consecutively. At least like 6 straight years of this, where it's play these guys, please. Like we shouldn't just now be figuring out what Travis Sanheim is. Like we should have figured that out before we gave him an 8-year
That's
contract.
partially on Travis Sanheim. I like Travis Sanheim, but Travis Sanheim has had some real good years and some real bad ones. It's kind of on him.
But like it should have we should have been a year ahead of schedule with him.
I agree.
To the point where, okay, he's up for this contract. I guess we give it to him. No, no, we don't. Or we could not, or we give him 4 years, and it was just, oh, he's okay. He's up and we're still not. It's just, the whole thing is asinine, but at least it finally seems as if they're in, I don't even know the right hands, but better hands than they were. And
I think they're definitely in better hands.
I'm really happy you brought up Jonesy because I've thought all along, like part of his job. I mean, think about who this guy was. And he was a good player. Don't want to take it away from him. But to have the post-playing career that he has had, he's probably really good at like talking to media executives.
Yeah.
And that's who owns the team.
Fair.
And they've finally been convinced that we're allowed to say the word rebuild. I bet you Keith Jones is a big part of this because he's not an idiot. Like, and we finally have people whose like opinion I don't think is, oh my God, what is he even telling them? Like, I want him to go to management. I want him to go to ownership and like trying to explain to them. But do I? Like, he might convince them we need to bring Andrew McDonald back. Like, and we finally don't have that guy in charge. And it's really nice.
Good. I do have a serious question about Mark Stahl, though.
Okay.
Did anyone else see him in pictures and say to themselves, who is that guy? And then learn it was Mark Stahl and wonder what he did this summer? Like, was he in like northern Saskatchewan, like in a
that is his
cabin?
Look. We asked him about it today at camp, and he essentially said that this is my thing, and if I try to shave at this point, my kids wouldn't recognize me. Which is honestly such a dad comment.
Yeah.
It's very much playing into, his role as what appears to be kind of like the team dad, or at least the defenseman dad is seemingly what they want him to be. So sure, why not?
Yeah.
So that's man, it's just good to hear. I had a whole for the DraftKings read. I had a whole thing prepared because I wanted to do a Metropolitan division preview today, so I have all the over-unders for points totals. I'm like, we're never going to get to that.
No,
like,
there's enough to talk
about. It's the three of us
about.
for the first time in weeks. We are never going to get to that. Like, we're going to get to one team in the Metro other than the Flyers. It's going to be Columbus because it's freaking funny.
Yeah.
So let's just do this straight up.
Here we go.
Football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook. That's right, DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. But nobody's missing out this season if you're a new customer, an old customer. No one's missing out because all DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. It's September 21st. Still plenty of time, and it's Thursday. There's football, so you might want to check that out over at DraftKings. Get in on NFL Week 3 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code PHLY to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code PHLY. The crown is yours.
Here we go.
Gambling call? Damn it.
You're crushing it.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in ONT. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
That was good, except for the
It's
start.
the very beginning
but the
of
thing
the-
is, that was kind of my fault.
Yeah.
I jumped in, I distracted you, so I'm not going to penalize you. That was really good.
I was really hoping to show off for Kelly, and
was great.
it went okay.
I made a bet on DraftKings once. It was a flawless experience. I bet that Claude Giroux would score in his first game back in Philly. He didn't do that.
did not do that.
He did not
Which
do
is
that.
very, very, like,
Yeah.
it's the most,
Thanks.
I always bet.
Thanks, Claude. Another letdown.
I always bet former Flyers to bet, and like none did last year. It was very, very frustrating because they always do, but no, not last year. Still plenty of dudes who like snapped goalless streaks or scored the second of their career or something, but not as many former Flyers as
That is
usual.
one of those classic things, and I will always say this, and no one will ever believe me.
I know,
It is
I
one
know.
of those classic things that every single fan base thinks that it happens to their team way more than it happens to everyone else. And in reality, it doesn't. It's just that it's so goddamn annoying when it does happen.
No,
and
but
so
it does.
infuriating
It
that,
does happen
that
more.
it sticks in your head.
It can't possibly happen to anyone as much as the Flyers.
No.
That's what every fan base says.
It's
Yeah, but
every
we're
game.
right. Yeah,
It
we're
was every
correct.
game
That's the
last year.
difference.
It was like, oh yeah, this dude from Saskatchewan who signed yesterday has a hat trick. Like what? Yeah, he cleans my pool and he was available, so we threw him out there because it's the Flyers.
Oh, man.
Anyway, we move on. So the roster battle. This makes the roster battle discussion just a lot more,
So much better.
a lot more
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
because, like, okay, it's not just the Sean Walker spot, and that means when you look at the forwards, oh, there's a little more there. Like, I bet you Delorier's still going to play every game or close to it.
Well, they want Delorier to be the protector. And you know what? To be totally honest with you, given where they're at, like, my view of somebody like Delorier is that if you're trying to win a cup, you don't want him playing 82 games a year. But if you're trying to rebuild and you're not really aiming to make the playoffs, if you do, that's great, but that's not the goal, then sure, have the guy who can pretty much beat up anyone in the league, have him out there so that if Owen Tippett wants to try a spinorama, that he can do that without having to worry about getting punched in the face because Nick Delorier will do that. Sure, why not?
But he'd still get
Is that
punched in the
real,
face.
though?
The players certainly do.
All
They
right.
believe
They
it's
think
real.
it's true,
Okay.
even though it's like clearly not.
Good for them.
Because if he does a spinorama, he's getting punched in the
Yeah.
face.
But then Nick
That's the thing, like,
Delorier will
But then
punch.
Nick Delorier punches that guy in the
Yep.
face, and we're happy because there was blood.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's not really a deterrence.
No,
so
it's
much.
just
You
violence.
talk to players, they will swear there is. And
They're
it
very
might
smart.
be one of those things where perception
Yeah.
means more than reality, but the perception is
No,
real.
it's
That's
like
fine.
we talked about with the captaincy
matter.
yesterday. It is both overrated and underrated. If it emboldens the players, they're still going to get hit.
Yeah.
But if it emboldens them in their mind to do cool shit,
Sure.
well, we're going to see some cool. Like that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I guess the other headline today. It's officially Couturier season.
It's Couturier
we
season.
Saw
He's back.
Him,
He's back,
We saw
baby.
him in an official because last year, but that was last year, and we didn't actually believe
He was
it.
in practice. None
Yeah.
of you guys believe me when I
No.
told you I saw him in practice.
No one was paying attention to the team
Lies.
anymore,
Well,
Charlie.
fair.
It's not that no one believed you. It was just like we don't care.
I know, was it like the last
don't know
week of the
what-
season?
I don't know what's
we were
better.
done.
Like, is it better if people don't believe me or if they just don't care
People
about me?
need to believe you because you're a journalist.
No, they care
no, they
about
don't.
you. They didn't care
Have you
about
seen
the
this country?
Flyers.
Fair. That's fair. But now, and then the pre rookie camp scrimmages, those aren't official team things. Now it happened. Couturier's out there. Did he look like he needed a walker?
He looked fine. I mean, look, he struggled, but everybody struggled. I would say he looked in much better shape than quite a few players that did the same bag skate that everyone did, which we'll get to in a few minutes. He didn't look bad, and he came up afterwards, talked to us, wasn't holding the cane, wasn't exhausted, could easily speak. He seemed like Sean Couturier, and we're not going to know for sure what he is until we see him. Not even just one game, but 10, 15 games, see what he might be. But so far, so good, I guess is all I can really say.
Kelly, when the season begins, night one in Columbus, are you expecting to see Sean Couturier play 22 minutes of high-level hockey?
22 minutes feels like maybe a little too much game one, given that he hasn't played a game
19
in
and a
2
half.
years. I'll take 19. I do expect, I kind of believe that Couturier is the type of guy that night one is going to want to prove to everyone that he's back. Like, he seems like that type of player to me. So I would expect that we're going to see the absolute best from Sean Couturier. I just don't think it's clear what that is at this point.
And if you share Kelly's opinion, you can bet it. Sean Couturier to school
Hey.
at DraftKings.
At DraftKings.
DraftKings, baby.
Had to get that one in there. I am hopeful we get that Sean Couturier. I'm trying to
Me too.
remain optimistic. If for no other reason, then our luck has to turn eventually, doesn't
right.
It feels like it's happening too. Like, it feels like the ship is like slowly making its way around a little bit. We're not fully there
It's a
yet.
wide turn,
It's a
but-
wide turn. It's got to be. It's a big boat. So they're taking the turn. And I feel like we're getting there. So this would just be another step in the,
Yeah, like
okay, we're not
Mishkov-
cursed direction.
Drink, we said his name.
2 goals today.
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Killed it.
Mishkov couldn't get playing time on his team. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, here we go. It's going to be a whole thing, and he gets loaned to Sochi, and he looks the way he's supposed to look.
Yeah.
Point
He's
bringing
racking
guy or
racking up
over
points,
that.
doing what he's supposed to do as an 18-year-old in the KHL
Superstar.
It seems as
Love
if
it.
the luck is finally turning.
I think the thing with Couturier that, and I'm not ready to say that Sean Couturier is going to come back and be the same Sean Couturier he was pre-injury, which was a really, really good player. That said, the one thing that gives me optimism is that he never really was a physically dominant player. Like, yes,
That's true.
You know, if he loses another half step, then is he suddenly just too slow to keep up? That's the concern. But his strengths as a player have long been his hockey IQ, have long been his details. Those are things that, at least in theory, don't get destroyed because you hurt your back. You know, he's still going to be the smartest guy on the ice, basically against every team. And I don't think that's going to just disappear because he missed a year and a half. Like, for example, let's say Connor McDavid, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but like, let's say he hurt his back and had 2 back surgeries. I would be very worried as to what player he would be if he's not the best skater in hockey anymore. Whereas if Sean Couturier gets a little bit slower, he was never that fast to begin with. That was never the strength of his game anyway.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like it's always the angles, it's the little things he does, and he developed that offensive side of his game. It's not as like he's dangling everyone out there sniping, though. It's a lot of him being in the right place and using that IQ that generates some offense.
Yeah.
So it's just taking what he's good at and putting it in the offensive zone, not just the D and neutral. And that's how he started to score the way he has. I don't think he's going to lose. He has lost a ton. I could be wrong. I just can't. I can't imagine, based on what he does well, that it just went away.
Nah.
I think my big concern for Couturier, I mean, the worst case scenario is he's just real slow now, and then because
He's
of
so slow, it
because
doesn't
of that,
matter,
he just
yeah.
can't keep up. He's a 4th line center. Yeah. I think the big fear I have for Couturier isn't that he's going to be bad. It's that he's going to get hurt all the time. Is that he's going to play 40 games a year because he's going to miss 3 weeks, and then he's going to be back for 2 weeks, and he's going to miss a week because this is just the new normal.
Which is the worst case scenario for someone with 7 years left on their contract with a full no move.
That's the new normal for a 30-plus-year-old Sean Couturier. Now, Couturier said today that he's got a new routine. He's set up a new daily routine. He's essentially doing what he called prehab before games because he knows he has to adjust his preparation given the fact that he just had 2 back surgeries. So maybe it works. But that's a legitimate concern because, let's be honest here, he is in his 30s, and this is a guy who started playing in the NHL at age 18. So he's got a lot of miles on those tires.
He's got a ton of miles, and I know we don't think of him as, like, he's not laying huge hits. He's not Mike Richards. He's not Rasmus Ristolainen.
Yeah.
But the way he plays is, I would call it like offensive lineman physical, where it's like you're not a Dawkins over the top laying someone out, but you're hitting on every single play. Like he is
and
involved.
He's getting hit too.
Yes, like he's involved in a lot of traffic is what I like.
Yes.
He gets, that's just the way he plays. He's a defensive minded center.
Yeah.
He's got the miles on him. So, and that's the worst case scenario is, he can play 45, 50 games a year. He's 75% of what he used to be, but he rarely play. That's the worst
scary.
thing that could happen to this team, talent or cap-wise.
But then I look at like a guy like Jordan Staal, who's still probably like a good 3rd line center, and I think he's like 37 years old, and he aged very well with a similar skill set to Couturier, except for the fact that Couturier at his best was way better than Jordan Staal at his best. So if he could age similarly to Jordan Staal, but basically just come from a higher ceiling where, he's around that same trajectory. It's just that Jordan Staal at his peak was an 80 player and Couturier at his peak was a 90 player. So he then is a 2nd line center at age 36 rather than a 3rd line or 4th line
Hypothetical question.
Yes.
Would you prefer like a 95% Sean Couturier for 40 games a year or a 70% Sean Couturier for 70 games a year?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah. Like, would it be better if he did kind of take a little step down, but because he's taken that step down, he can stay healthier longer because he's just not involved in as many things? Is that better than...
For right now, I would take the 40 games a year because I want them to lose.
Right.
A couple of years from now, like when Mishkov's here and Gautier's here and we're ascending... I would much rather have him regularly, especially for potential playoff run.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's just like, he's a 2nd or 3rd line center. He ain't winning the Selke anymore, but he's still pretty good. Like, I would take that over, don't know if he's going to be in the lineup.
This is like exactly the place where I think it would really benefit the NHL to not be so weird about healthy scratches. Like, it would be nice if you could give Couturier a night off here and there in games that don't matter too much, games against weaker opponents, and then maybe he does stay healthier longer in the year. But everyone makes it so friggin' weird about healthy
maybe
scratches.
they'll get to that point because it's just I think we asked
Danny. I just read Danny,
about load management.
I think it was yours.
Yeah, it wasn't my question.
You gotta
but
manage your
loads.
I think it was in your piece where they asked about load management. And he's like, yeah, you just don't. He was like, I don't know. The answer was odd where he was, yeah, it's just not that big of a deal in the NHL, like load management. You hear about it all the time in the NBA. And he wasn't like, oh, no, absolutely, we would never do it. Like, he didn't give the hockey man answer, like, we're here to do a job and play. He was just like, yeah, you just don't hear about it. At least that's how I read it.
I think we're probably about 10, 15 years away from that
I'll
point.
be dead, Charlie.
But, come on, Kelly. But seriously, I mean, you saw a little bit of that with like Bergeron last year, but I think that was because he was actually hurt.
Right.
Yeah, he couldn't actually play.
Yeah, but you did see a little bit of that there. I think with Couturier, maybe that could become a consideration 2-3 years down the road. But for now, you want to give him the opportunity because he straight up said on multiple occasions today he wants to be an 82-game-a-year player.
Of course.
And give him the opportunity to show he can still be that guy because, hey, I know this is the Flyers. I know that the worst-case scenario always happens with this team, but you never know. Maybe this one time we'll get a best-case scenario, and Sean Couturier will play 80 games this year and look mostly like the guy pre-injury. You never know.
That's
it's at
what
least
I'm
possible.
talking about. Optimistic Charlie.
Hey,
I'm here for it.
It's early in the season. I'll get there.
They're winning the cup
I'll
this
get
year.
there.
And
not
yeah,
that optimistic.
All right.
Kelly, if you want to bet the Flyers to win the cup.
I might put a $5 on DraftKings for the Flyers to win the cup.
Cam Atkinson.
Cam Atkinson,
did he speak today?
He did. I think,
how'd he look?
He looked fine. Again, this was bag skate day, so we're not really seeing them do anything beyond skating. He struggled like everybody did. Atkinson, for whatever reason, I think his return was a bit overshadowed by Couturier. Number one, because Couturier is just a better player. Number two, because Couturier, like Atkinson had one good year with the Flyers. Couturier is kind of a franchise institution at this point. So his return is a bigger deal. Plus, Couturier missed more time. But Atkinson looked fine. He seems optimistic that he's going to be good to go, and we'll see how that plays out.
Coots is like one of the longest tenured
He's got to be
athletes in the city at this
right?
point.
Yeah, what
Well,
is
the
Kelsey?
longest
Who's more? Isn't there one
Brandon
guy?
Graham was 2010.
Okay, so Brandon Graham's the one guy who's longer tenured than Couturier at this point. I
I'm
believe.
trying to think of like when the draft is, because 2011 would be Fletcher Cox, I think.
Yeah, 2011
And their draft
was-
is probably before the NHL's. But like it's right there, I believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about Sean Couturier. We're talking about Cam Atkinson, and we want them to look good.
Do we?
If you want to look good, you got to go to Foco. Foco has the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season, kids. Flyers coming up. Listen, you need your Flyers gear. I know a lot of you might have been off the bandwagon for a bit, but we're all on the same page now. The Flyers understand they have to rebuild, and I want to support them through
We
that.
got a whole new color of orange here.
Yeah, it's a new era of orange. You got to get the new orange, which is the old orange or whatever. Anyway, yes, so it's football, it's tailgating season, Red October's coming up, puck's about to drop on hockey, whatever it is you need, whether it's overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, whatever you need, Foco has it for game day, whether you're looking for team apparel or accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, stuff for the she shed, Kelly. I usually say man cave, but we have a lady here today.
I appreciate it.
It's all available at Foco, and they always have our back with Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in the description of this show. And for all non-presale items, use promo code PHLY. That's code PHLY for 10% off. Check out Foco.
Yo, that segue was so good that I didn't even realize it was happening. That was the smooth one. Yeah.
That's because I thought Charlie was going to be like, we need to do this read. And I was like, no, I want to get to Cam Atkinson so that I can set it up with this dumb thing I have planned.
I trust you. You scared me for a little bit, but I trust you in the end.
So we've talked a bit about the notorious John Tortorella bag skate. He tries to kill the guys on day one. And I love it, not just because, like last year, we heard about this was death camp, and it was good because I'm mad at everyone and I want them punished. And I don't feel that way anymore. I'm not mad at them because they haven't seriously angered me in about a year. Game one right around the corner. I'm sure they'll
They'll get there.
Give it a couple
but
weeks.
at this very moment, I'm not mad at them, and I don't want to see them punished, but I do like the day one bag skate. And Charlie, you said that they're the last team that does it this way?
It appears so. Scott Laughton certainly thought so today. He believes that they are the last team. This is very much now a unique Torts thing that they do this. And I think
Columbus would have done it this way, but they had a changing of the guard.
Yeah, it didn't quite get to that point. It's possible that other teams do it, but even if other teams do it, I don't think they do it to the degree that Torts does, because this is well known around the league that, oh God, you're going to a team with Torts as coach. Get ready for day one of training camp. Be ready.
It is an old school thing, and maybe like he doesn't deny them water. Like this isn't.
No, he's not torturing.
Yeah, like he's not Herb Brooks out there, like just trying to actively kill the guys. I just think it does set a good tone of, one, this is what exhausted feels like. After this, I don't want to hear you're fatigued in the second period of a game. Like, you empty it out. This is the expectation, and you're this tired. That's what it is to leave it out there. And just everybody giving it their all and being tired. I just think it's one, physically, like, you need the cardio. This is hockey. It's really tough to do. You need the cardio. And two, I think there's something more to it than that. Like, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to be dead on day one, even though you kept yourself in shape all summer. Some guys might not. And that's on you if you didn't, because you knew it was coming. It's year two of Torts. But like, I still like this. Like, this is not in any way abuse to me.
No.
I'm kind of like, I very much am on the fence about it, because on one hand, it does make me uncomfortable because it is so old school. It's so like, yeah, we're gonna punish these guys and they're gonna throw up, and it's a little much. However, and the reason why I'm generally okay with it is that I don't think it's likely to have any like serious negative impacts on these guys' health or on their potential to get injured over the course of the year. It's just a miserable day. And it's a miserable day that kind of brings everybody together because we're all miserable together.
Yeah.
Was going to say that, yeah.
And you know what? There's something to be said about the Flyers. And look,
I do want to be old school still.
That's the thing. Like, there are some parts of this organization that they don't want to go full new school. And this might be one of those things where it's we do this weird thing because we're the Flyers. And maybe it's becoming the new weird thing that the Flyers do.
It's not a Flyers thing, though. It's a Torts thing.
Yeah, but Torts is pretty much the Flyers at this point.
He's the captain of the team. Like, I'm not naming a captain because I'm the captain.
I'm just saying that I think what they want, and this is from Jonesy on down, is they want to kind of create a new definition of what it is to be a Flyer. They know, and I've talked to Jonesy enough to believe that he's sincere about this. He knows that it's not the Broad Street Bullies era anymore. He knows that they can't have 20 fights in a game. Like, that's just not the NHL anymore. But they want to create, and Torts is very much on board with this, wants to create like a new definition of what toughness means for this era. And he wants the Flyers to be unique from the other teams in the NHL. Like, even if this era of Flyers is not as traditionally tough as the 70s and the 80s, well, we're going to be tougher than all those other teams in the NHL. And this is just, it's a demanding, but I think ultimately harmless way to get that message across. So I don't love it. It doesn't make me feel great, but I don't hate it enough to rail against it.
I just, like, in a couple of years, the best player is going to be a Russian who tries the Michigan twice a week. That's fine. That's hockey now.
Yeah.
But it is still... There is just something barbaric about the sport of hockey that is never going to totally... Like, it's 2023, and there's a guy on the team whose job description, and he has a no-trade clause and 3 years left on his deal, whose job description is beat the shit out of people. Yeah. Like, that's hockey.
And we like it.
I love it. It's what made me like the game as a kid.
Like
it's why I played.
It's why you have a Frank Bialowas bobblehead up there.
It's why I brought Frank Bialowas to the studio with me, because he's my favorite hockey player of all time. Like, he never played he never played for the Flyers. He did play a little in the NHL.
I will
say,
they
never brought him up.
One thing I do wonder, because the Flyers, and I know this actually might surprise some people, but like, they're actually pretty gung-ho about this sports science stuff. Do they just turn off all those monitors for day one? Like, we don't even want to see the data.
Yeah, they do not want to see heart rate.
They told all your nerd pals to stay home today. Like, no. Camp opens Friday.
Yeah, you don't have to see this.
Camp opens Friday. We're not doing anything today. It's not.
I do think, like Charlie said, there is something about collective suffering. Like, not real suffering, but like this kind
They're
of
skating.
suffering. Yeah, but like when you go
they're not
through
being chained.
no, but when you go through a difficult thing with people,
Yeah.
at the end of it, it's like when you run the stupid Broad Street run. Everyone is doing it together. It sucks for me the entire time, but at the end of it, you're like, that was fucking great. Look at what we all did. Like at the end of it, there is like a collective.
We did it.
We did this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that that's good to bring a team together at the very start of the season. It's probably pretty good in a way that we don't fully understand because we're not in the room with
And
them.
that's more or less what Scott Laughton said today.
Yeah.
We interviewed him. Laughton was, to be clear, one of the ones who was struggling the most. He had a tough time.
Getting old, man. He's getting old.
But Scott basically said, it's done now, and I think it brings all the boys together. The anxiety leading up to it with everyone talking about it, but I think it definitely brings the guys together. There's a method to what Torts does here, and it definitely brings us together. Now, granted,
Nailed it.
you do have to account for the fact that he obviously knows that he has to play under this coach, and if he really is thinking, I hate this guy, this is a dumb idea, he's not going to say that because he wants to get some ice time.
Yeah.
But Scott Laughton, I think, generally speaking, is a pretty sincere guy, and I got the sense he was being sincere when he said
Scott
that.
Laughton's like, so I could have gone to like Toronto and been on a President's Trophy team, and the coach likes me, so I'm not allowed to leave and I have to stay here. I am going to start speaking out.
Yeah, but I mean, he still wouldn't get past the second round. So
Charlie, just the Leafs hater.
from the top rope.
Charlie, just the Leafs hater. He is a journalist through and through until it comes to the Leafs, and he just hates them. It's not even them. It's just like their fan
It's
base.
really the fan base.
It's just
It's the
that-
fan base and the oversaturation of media coverage.
How does this affect the Leafs? You know,
Everything affects the Leafs.
Well,
Their
that's like-
fans are us, fam. Their
like,
fans
the
are
Yankees
us.
aren't the Yankees really anymore in that regard. The Cowboys are still kind of that, but like the Leafs, it really is the dominant conversation a lot of the time.
No, well, look. and
In
we've-
Canada.
Well, we've talked about it on the
that's
show.
so much of our
Yes,
coverage
right.
comes from
Yeah.
Canada. We're like the number 2 hockey show in the country.
But we've talked about it on
couple
the
of-
show, is that the Leafs fans aren't Flyers fans. Leafs fans are Eagles fans. That's what they are.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, Flyers fans know that the Flyers are not the top topic in Philadelphia sports.
Fair.
The Leafs are the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth topic
Okay.
in Toronto sports and really in Canada sports.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Imagine being them. Like, yeah, we haven't won since expansion.
Yeah, right?
Like, we haven't won since the league went to 12 teams.
They make the Flyers look good.
Yeah, at least the Flyers. Like, they were an expansion team and they won.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
twice.
the Leafs still haven't.
Nope.
It's absolutely freaking bonkers. I guess what else is bonkers is the deals you get. No.
I was wondering.
I thought it was real.
I want to, because we're talking about the Torts bag skate, and it is this old school approach. There aren't a ton of these guys left. Charlie, just the other day, you asked Danny,
I did,
like,
yeah.
is there any fear of a Babcock like blow up? Because we have the guy who is like Columbus hired Babcock because they missed the accountability that Tortorella brought to them. So he was the next best thing.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, is there this possibility? Are you afraid of that? And Danny, like, kind of gave the answer that you, like, opined a couple of days prior. Like, he cares about the players. Babcock cares about Babcock. He didn't say that exactly.
It was kind of
but it was
fun.
basically exactly what he said.
In all honesty, like, that was a really funny part. And about that was that, like, I'm not saying that Danny Briere was going out of his way to bury Mike Babcock. I think he was like praising Tortorella, but by praising Tortorella for caring about the players, he was essentially saying that guy doesn't care about the players.
I bet Danny knows a lot of guys who played for him.
Probably. Yeah.
And I think that there is a huge distinction between I'm kind of a dick to my employees at work and I'm an actual sociopath who doesn't understand human emotion. Like, Mike Babcock is fucked up.
I just like... And
like, the stuff that he did wasn't like almost not even sports related.
No, that's-
just like terrible shit to these guys for no reason.
So I wanted to do like a Metro preview today, like I said, and the only team we're gonna get to is Columbus, and that's why I wanted to get to with this. But I thought it was a joke the first time I heard this one story about the phone stuff that went on with Babcock, and apparently, because I've heard it several places now, it's true that he invited a young player to his house for lunch, took the kid's phone, looked through it, handed it back to him, and said, "You're good," and basically dismissed him.
No lunch.
Gave him no lunch.
No lunch.
my God.
Didn't give him a sandwich.
Psycho
Didn't grill him a
shit.
burger. Like
wild.
that
Psycho
is
shit.
lunatic behavior. And like if you then look at how like Boone Jenner responded and Johnny Gaudreau, guess whose careers don't rest on Mike Babcock?
Yeah.
Those guys. Johnny Gaudreau's set for life.
Yeah.
Go ahead and bench me. It would be better. Team stinks. You're paying me a shit ton of money. See ya. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Boone Jenner, he's the captain of the team. He needs him to relay the message. Also, a 30-year-old. Like, 30-year-old me, what I have on my phone.
Yes, that's a big
compared to 22-year-old me, totally different.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally different.
You're kind of domesticated now.
Yeah, like, exactly. Like he's showing, hey, yeah, this is my dog, this is my wife. Like, it's different than what a 22-year-old is professional athlete is probably showing him. And so his interactions with those guys, like Jenner put out the statement with the team, and when Gaudreau was asked about it, he was like, "No, it was cool." Because he treated you differently,
Right?
Because there's not as much of a power dynamic there with these kids whose careers are in his hands. He is saying, like, imagine being at any job and your boss just going, "Hand me your unlocked phone."
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's wild.
Absolutely the fuck not.
That is like, that can't be legal.
I'm going to HR. Like,
Yes.
no.
And this is
I want to think one of the low key funny but also like what moments of that whole thing was when they interviewed Jarmo Kekalainen, the general manager of the team, after the whole thing, and he said, "Oh yeah, Mike did that with me too. I didn't find it." We're like, "You asked for the GM's phone too?"
I wouldn't ask for Bill's phone to look through his pictures. Like, it's not a thing that a civilized person does. No one knows what's in our camera rolls. There's some shit in there that nobody needs to see but me. And that's why you don't ask your friends to just willy-nilly scroll through a photo roll. Also, another thing that I don't think gets mentioned enough is that Mike Babcock is not actually a good coach. He's not a good coach.
I think if he was a good coach at one point, and basically where he gets this reputation is his time in Detroit,
Right,
and then
with the best
with
team
the
ever
greatest
assembled.
teams,
With
like
great teams.
Oh, like I could have coached those Team Canadas. Like
John
they're
Tortorella.
the country that invented the game, and maybe their best team ever assembled. Oh, they won a gold medal. No shit.
Right.
There's only like 4 countries that actually play hockey to begin
Right.
with.
Yeah, it's completely fair. But I think if at one time he was
That
a really
Ducks
good coach,
team was pretty good
I
with
don't
him.
think he is a really good coach anymore.
No.
I think the game has passed him by. I think you kind of saw that in Toronto. You know, those teams
They're
were
getting
good.
to the exact same place.
Yeah, he wasn't making that team any better than it was from a talent
They
standpoint.
played to their level.
Yeah.
Like if he was a great coach, he could take a super talented team and elevate them
Yeah.
to be more than that. Like, oh, you won gold medals and cups. Teach these kids how to win. It's like year 10 for that group. They haven't won shit. You didn't coach them up in any way.
Yeah.
They're on another coach. They're doing exactly what they did under you.
Yeah.
I don't get. Maybe he was at one point a good coach. Perhaps he might even still be decent, but he's definitely not worth. Like,
Not
what's
this.
the next thing he's gonna like? If he had got away with this, like then what's he doing? Like, this is. It's not. We said, like I said the other day, this doesn't cross the line of like Bill Peters or something like that,
it's not to that.
or
No.
Urban Meyer who kicked his kicker. Like,
Wonderful.
he's not like physically abusing it, but like this is like mind games to the. Like, okay, now I have dirt on you. Like, oh, you're my boss.
Right.
You're blackmailing me. You're my boss.
And here's the thing. We know how much like weird, like hazing, psychological shit that these guys go through throughout their whole time coming up in hockey. Like we've started to hear about all of the weird shit that these guys go through. And even still, these players are like injured mentally by Mike Babcock. Like
Yeah.
that's how bad it is.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that there's a lot more that is that players, particularly guys that have made it all the way to the NHL, there's a lot more that they would accept that I think even us as lay people would be like, that's too much. The fact that even them as a collective group are like, this Babcock guy takes it way too far, that should tell you just how badly he takes it.
Well, it's like, if a guy who maybe never quite made it and had some some sort of something to grind with Babcock, you'd take that with a grain of salt.
It's a lot of players.
But it's Johan Franzen.
Yeah.
Like the dude who had all the success in his career under this guy.
Yeah.
Like he still is like, nah. Like it's dudes who won gold medals with him and they're like, no, he sucks.
And Franzen even was like, hey, great coach by the X's and O's, just a horrible human being.
Just a terrible, terrible human being.
And John Tortorella is not.
No.
He's a good dude.
He doesn't seem like a bad guy from what I've put together.
What I'll say about Torts is that Torts actively has people, like when this pops up and people will talk about how Torts is such an asshole and he's a bad dude, he has a lot of former players stand up and be like, no, I really like Torts. Yeah, he's tough, but he's a good dude. Did anyone get up and say that about Mike Babcock?
Not
Even one person?
No.
No one stands up for Mike Babcock. It's because he plays mind games with you. You know who won't play mind games with you?
Who's that, Bill?
It's GameTime.
Hey.
That's right. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. It's no fun playing for Mike Babcock. It is fun going to games if you get your tickets with GameTime, because it is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. GameTime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The GameTime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag tickets without the stress with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I just want to, we'll wrap up still talking a little about the Metro and Columbus, but they had such a rough season last year. Maybe since Tortorella left, the accountability waned, but also half your team got hurt.
Yeah, everybody got hurt.
You had no goaltending.
Yeah.
You lose Jake Voracek. The whole team is injured. You're bringing up a bunch of guys. Should they be, regardless of coach, considerably better than last season, a season in which they were 1 point out of dead last in the NHL, tied with Chicago, who was openly tanking for the second worst record?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they be a lot better? And I guess the question I'm really asking is, can Ivan Provorov drag this group of sorry losers to the playoffs?
Not him, no. Not him.
Oh, man. Yeah.
No, ma'am.
I don't know. Honestly, and I, generally speaking, think that Kekalainen is a good judge of talent. I think he's done a decent job there for years. I don't know what he was thinking this summer with the moves they made. Number one, the hiring of Babcock, which has already been proven to be a total debacle, to the point where I'm honestly mildly surprised that ownership didn't fire Kekalainen.
I'm shocked,
for
actually.
Flubbing that hire as badly as he did and embarrassing the organization to that degree, but keeps his job for now. But not only that, I mean, some of the moves they made, the Provorov deal, and set aside our feelings about Provorov, he is at best a number 2. He's probably a number 3. And I was very surprised that they're using him as the centerpiece, in addition to getting Werenski back healthy, as the centerpiece to fixing their blue line. That's your plan? You think that's going to work?
If you have Werenski healthy as your number 1, Damon Severson.
Yeah, they went out. They trade for Severson's rights, give him a massive contract. And Severson's a guy who always real good by advanced metrics, but he frustrates coaches. So you're getting a guy in Severson who frustrates coaches. You're getting a guy in Provorov who basically the big thing with him in Philly was that when he wasn't getting top power play minutes and top minutes, he would sulk. And that was one of the problems. So now you're going to ask him to be below Werenski, they were originally asking him to play under Mike Babcock. He worked real well under John Tortorella. Now you're going to have him play under the guy who's John Tortorella, but
the one bad thing.
even worse.
The one bad thing is that we don't get to see Ivan Provorov just absolutely die having to deal with Mike Babcock.
I don't know what they were thinking in terms of fixing this roster. And they're going to have some fun players.
Ivan Provorov for 4.725 is not Ivan Provorov for the 6 or whatever we were paying.
Fair.
Sure.
It's that seems more befitting his role on a second pair.
Yeah, but I just don't think he's going to fix it. That's the thing.
Oh, definitely not.
This is a team that, I guess they probably looked at it and they said, all right, well, we just signed Johnny Gaudreau to this massive deal. We've got Line A. We've got young players. We're going to get that top pick, which they used to get Adam Fantilli, that we got to go for it. But I just don't think that Ivan Provorov and Damon Severson is moving the needle enough. To what does it do? Best case scenario, they get 85 points and miss the playoffs. I just don't see this team as being that good.
So I guess there's probably a solid chance that they just think, kind of like the Flyers did for a long time, that if they just have a fully healthy roster, they're actually good.
Yeah. I think they're wrong.
Yes.
But
we
thought
that about the Flyers too.
And we were right.
So Charlie, you just said what? Their ceiling might be 85 points. So last year they had 59, second worst in the league. DraftKings has them at 72.5. You think I should take that over? I
mean, you just lost your coach on the eve of training camp. There's real disaster potential here. Let me put it that way.
I think there's while there's definitely disaster potential, I could see this being a real solid. I bet everyone in that locker room's happy as shit.
Right.
Probably.
Yes.
This could be a real maybe rallying thing for them. I don't know. I like Columbus. I want them to be good. I want them to be. I don't know. They seem like they've been down there a while now. They've really accomplished nothing. They've won one playoff series ever. I know Jake's not there anymore. I was kind of rooting for him, but Johnny's there. I want to see Johnny do well. I don't know. They're non-offensive to me. I don't like watching their games because for some reason, everything looks gray in their stadium. I don't know. It just looks
they
old.
got the cannon. That's their big thing. Maybe it's just the smoke.
Their stadium just looks old when I watch it. The ice is the wrong color. So I don't know. But it's
from a Flyers perspective.
For them.
From a Flyers perspective, fans should be rooting for them to be better because that would give the Flyers a better draft slot.
Yeah, just
there you go.
Just be better than the Flyers.
Yeah, right.
Is really it's funny. The Flyers are. What's their over under? They were at 75 last year. They finished with 75 points. They're over under 76.5. It's we expect them to be the same. And then we expect Columbus to take a big jump. It's the injuries.
You're getting Werenski back. They did make ads, so presumably they should be better. I just don't think they're going to be better enough to be relevant. And my general philosophy is, if you're not going to be better enough to be relevant, why make the big ads in the first place?
That's fair. So Charlie and I talked about this yesterday because I, again, wanted to do the Metro preview today. We'll get to it eventually. But we wrapped up yesterday's show, and both of us think the Devils are going to take the crown from the Hurricanes this year. How you feel about it, Kelly?
The Devils are going to be stupid good. And it's almost like I'm having a little bit of an existential crisis because I'm finding myself not hating that team.
Because they're going to be fun, but I hate them.
Used to.
Yeah.
It's kind of there's just so much distance between the time when the Flyers and the Devils were both good at the same time.
It's been a while.
That I no longer have such an emotional hatred for them. And they are so fun.
They are a fun team to watch.
So fun.
It's infuriating that the team that ruined hockey in the 90s is now playing a high-octane fun style with a ton of fun players.
Meanwhile, we're coached by John Tortorella.
Also, I went to a Devils game last year, very randomly, a Devils Stars game, on a Thursday night, and for no reason. It was my first Devils game ever. They're in the middle of being the most fun team in the league, kicking ass all over the Metro, and maybe 75% full.
That's Devils.
That annoys me because I feel like that
I would kill to be you.
It's being wasted. Yeah, it's being wasted on a market that doesn't appreciate it.
It was wasted in the 90s.
It was, yeah. But then it sucked.
They had their parade in a goddamn parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, I remember it was the first game of the playoff series this year against the Rangers, and they show the arena. It was in Newark, and you're like, wow, that place is rocking. It's loud, it's full, and then the first time a Rangers player does something good, and you hear the kind of like, oh, that's why it's full because it's 40% Rangers fans in there.
The Devils annoy me because now I have to change my typical complaint about having to do a post game I don't want to do. It's like, oh, it's the freaking Devils on a Tuesday in February. I don't feel like it. Yeah. And now it's like, no, I want to watch that game.
Now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ottawa, who has Giroux, so I can't, even though I just hate them. It's really just the Flyers. Any Flyers game is going to be tough to get through.
On a Tuesday?
They're the team.
Every time.
It's the middle of the week. I just want to go to bed. I'm going to be the guy who complains about the late games this year. That's what it's going to be. I'm going to be like, really? We got to be on the West Coast? Just forfeit.
Well, we got one game.
Those games don't exist.
We got that one game, that one day where every single team is playing. It's like staggered over the course of the day. The Flyers have the 11 p.m. game.
Oh, that's
going to be a rough one.
Oh, man. I'm doing, just to let everyone know, I'm doing post-game drunk that night.
I won't be watching that game.
I think this was a pretty successful very first PHLY BSH crossover. Extremely happy to have you here, Kelly. Can't wait till we can welcome Steph as well.
Yeah.
But I had fun today.
Me too. This is great.
Flew
it was
by.
super fun being in the same room as you guys.
It absolutely flew by with the flyby. So that is all the time we have for you today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Search PHLY wherever there are podcasts. Boom, content. It's like daily now, man. You can watch us right here on YouTube. Set up the reminders so you get alerted whenever we go live. You know the deal. All right, for Kelly, for Charlie, my name is Bill Matz. Have a great week, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.